Okay, Mr. Mayor, we are live and ready when you are. Sorry, Liz.
Hey, sounds good. We'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. This is a meeting of the Seldovia City Council, regular meeting of the Seldovia City Council, Monday, May 22nd, 2023 at 6 p.m. We'll go ahead and do roll call. Swick.
Here.
Peyton.
Here.
Keithley.
Here.
Sweat.
Here.
Rojas.
Here.
And Kennedy.
Here.
Okay, we have everyone in attendance tonight. If Heidi, you want to go ahead, or Liz, if you want to go ahead and lead off on the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, thank you. Excuse absences. We have none. Item D, agenda approval. We'll go and look for a motion to approve tonight's agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve tonight's agenda.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Rojas to approve tonight's agenda with a second by Keithley. Any further discussion before we vote on the motion? Okay, hearing none, we'll go ahead and vote on the agenda approval for this evening. All those in favor, Swick,
Aye.
Peyton,
Aye.
Keithley,
Aye.
Rojas, or excuse me,
Aye.
Sweat,
Aye.
Rojas,
Aye.
and Kennedy.
Aye.
Okay, motion passes 6-0. Item E, consent agenda. All items under the consent agenda are approved with a single motion, no discussion, and one vote. A council member may request to remove any item for discussion and a separate vote. Items removed from the consent agenda will be placed under new business. Tonight's consent agenda consists of item E1, approval of minutes from the regular meeting, May 8th, 2023. Item E2, which is ordinance introduction. There are two ordinances for introduction. Item 2A, ordinance 23-16, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Seldovia, Alaska, amending Seldovia Municipal Code Title 18, Section 18.04.020, terms of a commission. Recommended public hearing is going to be on June 12th, 2023. Then the second item under ordinance introduction will be item 2B, ordinance 23-17, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Seldovia, Alaska, amending Seldovia Municipal Code, Chapter 2.32, election, sections 2.32.080 through 2.32.150, and a recommended public hearing is also on June 12th, 2023. Does any member wish to remove any item for further discussion at a later time? Okay, hearing none, I'll go ahead and look for a motion to approve tonight's consent agenda.
I move to approve tonight's consent agenda.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Keithley to approve tonight's consent agenda with a second by Swick. That was Swick on the second?
Rojas.
Rojas, okay, we have a second by Rojas. Any further discussion on the approval of tonight's consent agenda before we vote? Okay, hearing none, we'll go ahead and vote on the approval of tonight's consent agenda. All those in favor, Swick,
Aye.
Peyton,
Aye.
Keithley,
Aye.
Sweat,
Aye.
Rojas,
Aye.
and Kennedy.
Aye.
Okay, motion is approved, with a vote of 6-0. That was the consent agenda. Item F, mayoral proclamations, none. Item G, public presentation, prior notice. I don't see anybody listed. Heidi, no changes to that?
No, there's no changes.
Okay. Item H, public presentation for items not on the agenda. Do we have anyone in the audience or online that wishes to speak to that tonight?
We have no hands raised, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, sounds good. Item J, committee and advisory board reports, and I don't see any listed there. Same thing, no changes.
No changes to that either, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Item J, administrative reports. Item J1, finance report. And my page numbers did not make it on this one. These are going to be written report only.
Correct, Mr. Mayor.
Okay.
And that's page 22 for the finance report.
Okay, 22 of your packet for the finance report.
I have a question, Mr. Mayor.
Yep, go ahead.
These ARPA funds. So remind me. So there look 12,000 for CRW. What was that for?
Through the mayor, that was for grant writing services through CRW Engineering, and we utilized them for the Denali Commission grant for an overall analysis of how we should pursue grants in the future. And I believe there was one other item that's not coming to the top of my head.
Okay. And then, so there's 7,800 left. Do we have a purpose for that? Why don't I remember any of this? Or do we have to figure that out still?
So the first tranche of ARPA funding was dedicated for grant writing purposes, and then the second portion is for the ineligible costs to this building. So there's going to be a portion for like the windows in this room because it's council chambers that the city will cover. So that tranche will be expended out that way. It's just it's probably still being held up in receipts. I'll double check with our finance officer. And then the second tranche was used in the general fund as as a revenue replacement.
Oh,
So they are all dedicated.
okay.
Okay, any other questions on tonight's finance report? Okay, hearing none, we'll go ahead and move on to item J2, Harbor Master Report. That's going to be found on page 27 of your packet. Looks like all the typical springtime stuff's going on, water startup, new float pieces and parts, water line parts, lots of training.
Mr. Mayor, if I may ask.
Yep, go ahead, Vivian.
Yeah, if I could get an update on what is our policy and our procedure that we're going to move forward with for people parking in long-term parking, reporting to the harbor master. I know we need to put up signage, and are we still waiting on getting the signage? And if so, what is it going to look like for people to go in and sign the form? Have we got a template made up for the office, for the harbor master?
Thank you. Through the mayor. Yes, we do have a template, and we already have the registration in place in the harbor master's office. So as people come in, they are able to sign up. We also already have the signage. That is something that we've been working on this spring, getting ready to install. And we had a little bit of a delay with the extra snow in the boatyard and not being able to get to some of the equipment that we needed. And then we're at a crew and a half. But regardless, that's on the list for this week. I'm hoping to have it accomplished before Memorial Day. And if not, then it'll be shortly after. It was supposed to be first thing this week, and I won't give a long of excuses, but things happen the way they do. But we have it. We have the stuff. We just need to get them out there.
Great, thank you. So is there in the signage, does it tell people to go report and sign into the harbor master in the 30-day parking.
It does. It says that
Okay.
registration is required to the harbor master's office and that vehicles can be impounded and towed at the owner's expense if they're there without checking in or with longer than they're supposed to be.
Right. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, thank you, Vivian.
If I may, a couple of things I just noticed being down at the harbor since we're getting back into summer mode. I know Layla's not here and I'm sure she's aware of it, but she had some really nice signage that she made for like the fees at the fillet tables and such. And I noticed just how they were made. I'm like, those aren't going to last very long. And they're already like wet and like don't look good and falling apart. And so I don't know, just as kind of something on the city's radar with her that signage is important, because I even had some people that are regular that happen to actually see it, like for the fillet tables, and like, oh, people are supposed to pay to use the fillet tables if they don't have so they saw it, but it's already like melting apart. So, and then I think my only other question of also being a tenant down there and just noticing a lot of the snow destruction that happened this year. I know they're working on trying to repair a lot of the floats and such, but it might behoove them to, if they haven't already, just kind of do a walk around and see if there's things like, I know our dock's always been a fun little like breaking apart, and we tried ourselves to fix it this year, but there's some places I've noticed where boards where people like you walk and it's starting like the nails pulled out. So just something as we're trying to get some more foot traffic that I really noticed the last couple of days. Thank you.
Thank you, Ashley. Any other questions, comments on the Harbor Masters report? Okay, we'll move on to item J3, the Public Works Maintenance Report. And this is found on page 30 of your packet.
Mr. Mayor, if I may, there's also a photo in the laydown that's on page 3 that accompanies this report.
Okay.
Operator Cameron wanted it included.
Oh, the one of the tire?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. That thing's in rough shape. Okay, any questions, comments on the Public Works report? Okay, I'll go ahead and conclude tonight's reports under administrative reports. We'll go ahead and move on to item K. K1, public hearings. Review the project performance, improvements to multi-purpose building through the CDBG CV program. This is our community block development grant, and this will be found on page 4 of the laydown. And we'll go ahead and let the city manager take it away.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. As part of the grant process, second public hearing is required for the improvements to multipurpose building project. So I have a quick summary on page 4 that talks about that requirement and give us a timeline for the overall project beginning back in November of 2021 when we first started looking at potential projects for the CBDG and survey deadline, RFP for the building, receiving the grant and moving forward through it being the contract being awarded to Alaska Peninsula Plumbing and Mechanical in August, and then work beginning through the winter. I did try to include some pictures of the new roof and some of the work that's been done. That'll begin on page 5, so you can see the new roof on the building. And if anybody needs to walk through, we can do that as well. The new doors is an automatic door. The one thing we did discover with that is it's not a fire exit, which is okay per code, but we have requested that the inside cylinder be changed from a key cylinder to a thumb cylinder. That way, if there's somebody in the building without a key and that door is accidentally locked, they can get out in case of an emergency. So there's a little bit more work to be done on that, along with a couple of the other doors, some lag bolts for the door downstairs, and keypad for the fire hall. New windows were put in, and the new ventilation system and heating. You can see all the shiny copper downstairs it's on that bottom picture. The bathrooms are still a work in progress. They did put in the new countertops and the new urinals, toilets. Looks like we need to take out some of those signs because it's now touchless, so you don't need to flush that urinal on page 6. But you can, I hope you can see it in the picture. Might be worth walking through to just see that there's still some sheetrock work to be done. That's supposed to be, they said they were loading up materials this week and coming over next week. And then I included the scope of work for the project on page 8 and what's included on page 9 versus the latest update that we received on page 10. That says that at this time, you should have the following work completed: new heating systems that work, second boiler that works, solid surface and plumbing installed, kitchen drains brought up to code using floor sinks for indirect waste instead of direct connections to the waste system, new windows installed, new doors installed, new roof installed, new exit signs and emergency lights were required, new motion sensor light switches were needed, new bath fans installed. Remaining work is sheetrock and paint, supposed to occur next week. Additional concrete legs for the bottom door, requested code lock and additional key lock, and shower control installed as requested. So we're still working through the pieces with the company. On that, it's supposed to close out by June 15th, and then the grant itself closes on June 30th. So a little bit of a tight deadline, but contractor seems to think that they'll be able to meet it. And so we'll keep an eye. I also requested to do a walkthrough with their crew next week to be able to just really go over everything that was done and check it off, even though I've seen most of it in progress as it is now. And I wanted to include lastly on page 7 that even though this work has been done, certainly there's still some more work that could be done. It's from cosmetics out in the main lobby, where some of the wallpaper is peeling and with outdated popcorn ceiling and such. And then you'll see around some of the windows that were framed on the outside could use paint, as well as the siding of the whole building really could use replaced. And we should look at these back stairs. We had a really exciting moment when the representative from the grant office came to visit, and that was the first thing she noticed was the siding. And she said, well, we just should add that on as part of the grant. And then it came back and we're not able to, but we know that that's something that we need to do in the future, and we can keep pursuing. But for now, this discussion is hopefully it's a public hearing to hear everybody's thoughts about the progress so far, and happy to hear from you guys.
Okay, thanks, Heidi. Appreciate. Who was that? I wasn't sure if someone. Okay, I heard someone back in the background there. All right, we'll go ahead and open it up to council for any comments or questions regarding the work that was done as part of under the community block development grant. Okay, I'll take a stab. Just to get it out there, I think in terms of input, everything so far, the roof turned out good. I know there were some current concerns last fall, got put in late in the fall, but it looks like all the shingles laid down nicely over the winter. And so that looks good. The windows, the trim, all the exterior looks pretty good. Agreed, paint would go a long way. The heating system certainly is immediately noticeable when you're inside the building. Yeah, it's not stifling in there anymore like it used to be. So obviously the the thermostats, controls, all that have been updated, now working properly. So I think just overall quality for, the tenants of the building and anyone that uses the building, the accessibility with the doors, the ability for the windows to open and close. I mean, all of that, it's just, much needed, especially for us, where we live and the amount of use that building gets. This was a very important grant, well needed, and this will benefit the residents of the community for a long time to come. So, that's my input.
Mr. Mayor, if I may.
Yeah, you bet. Go ahead.
Yeah, I would concur with that. I think it's a wonderful grant that we received. That building is in bed in disarray, and we have just really brought it up to standard. And the ADA doors down below, those doors were a pain in the rear to open up when they were just doors. They were heavier than all get out. So it's wonderful. I'm really pleased. But did I miss something about the painting? That's something we have to do outside of this grant. Is that correct? Do we have plans to get money for that, or I missed it? I'm sorry.
Through the mayor?
Yeah, go ahead, Heidi.
Yes, that's outside of the grant. Siding and paint wasn't included because this grant is specific to prevention and preparedness for coronavirus. So the siding and paint doesn't qualify. But we are looking at, there's a few other opportunities. There's one that I just slipped off the top of my head that's open year round that myself and Finance Officer Yeager were looking at. It's a community it's another community development grant through a different agency, as well as it was suggested that we consider the CDBG again this fall, but not the coronavirus CDBG, the regular CDBG for the rest of the improvements.
Thank you.
Thanks, Vivian. Anyone else?
Just one quick one for mayor, for city manager. Do you have an
You bet.
estimate? You have an estimate of how many sheets of siding it needs? Do you have any idea how many sheets they think they need?
Through the mayor, that's a great question. It was when we got excited at the moment. Our contractor actually started going out and looking for quotes, and we were going to work through that process, but it was delayed. So not at this time, but definitely something that we will need a quote for before we can pursue funding.
Okay.
All right, we'll go ahead and go to the public. Is there anyone in chambers or online that wishes to offer a comment for the grant?
There's nobody online and no one in chambers wants to offer any comments.
Okay. All right, we'll go ahead and bring it back to council. I don't know if there's anything we need to do here. Heidi, any type of action or anything? Are you looking for any kind of motion or anything, or?
Not at this time, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, sounds good. Okay, we'll move on to item K2, ordinance 23-15A, a non-code ordinance of the city of Seldovia, Alaska, accepting FY 2024 fee schedule, Appendix A of the fiscal year 2024 budget. This will be found on page 32 of the regular packet. And Heidi, I'll let you go ahead and take it away.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So as previously discussed in a work session, this is the FY 24 draft fee schedule. It does include overall changes of a 4.3% increase to user fees and a 3% credit card transaction fee for the city office. It updates language throughout the fee schedule and corrects a few typos and some grammar, but it also additionally updates language for seasonal boat ramp use by removing specific dates so that it's just a 6-month time same as we bill for 6-month annuals in the harbor. It updates the port fee language by just removing the calendar year specifics from FY 22 when that port fee was updated from $1 to $2. Updates harbor credit card fee to $1.75 due to a need for new software, and that'll have an increased fee that accompanies it. And removes language from the boatyard standards for the septic tank property, as that's already included. Includes language that the harbor shed garbage is included with annual moorage, and that updates the Gateway kiosk monthly rental rate to $350, as well as updates audio data CD to thumb drive for $10. So if somebody needs a public records request and it's on a thumb drive, or they want it on a thumb drive, it'd be $10 for that thumb drive with that public records request. And then you'll see also on page 41, per the previous discussion, that there was some standards included for garbage and refuse service. So that says City of Seldovia Garbage Refuse Service Standards, and it includes that the garbage should be contained properly, no loose items, and that it shouldn't cause spillage or animal attractants. The residential refuse collection should be limited to 2 standard garbage cans of household trash per pickup, or 8 standard kitchen bags of garbage. Commercial refuse collection should be limited to 15 standard commercial bags of refuse per pickup. Boxes shall be broken down prior to pickup, and larger items such as pallets, furniture, home fixtures, and appliances such as toilets, refrigerators, countertops, and cupboards, construction waste, tires, brush, etc., are not included in refuse standard service and may not be picked up. So with that, that is the fee schedule, and I'm here for questions.
Hey, sounds good. Thanks, Heidi. We'll go ahead and open it up to the council for any questions, comments for the manager.
Mr. Mayor, I have a question.
Yep, go ahead, Bobby.
I just can't find it now. Give me just a second. Just a minute ago. Well, the discount, anyway, I don't know where it's at right now. The discounts for the volunteers on fire and EMS, is Jamie reviewing that and bringing that up to current?
I believe so, but I will verify.
Okay, thanks.
If I may, Heidi, I talked to Jamie the other day and she said that her and Jared together are working on that.
I have one quick one, the harbor head tax.
Port fee?
How are like the boats that are coming from home, or how are they notified about the increases?
The port fee went out with a letter. A letter went out at the beginning of the year along with annuals, and to our regular port fee users, it's for passenger vessels. So any passenger vessel that comes in. And they did receive a letter, yes. And then and it looks like it's gone pretty smoothly so far.
Any other questions, comments before we go to the public? Okay, we'll go ahead, go to the public, see if anyone from the public, either online or in the audience, has any comments on ordinance 23-15, which is the fee schedule up for adoption tonight.
I'm not seeing any members of the public for comment.
Okay. Go ahead and bring it back to council for final action on ordinance 23-15, the fee schedule.
Mr. Mayor, I'll make a motion that we adopt ordinance 23-15A.
Second that.
Okay, we have a motion to adopt ordinance 23-15A by Rojas. We have a second by Sweat. Any further discussion on ordinance 23-15? 15A before we vote? Okay, hearing none, we'll go ahead and vote on the approval of ordinance 23-15A. All those in favor, Swick, and I see she's there. Okay. Peyton. Keithley,
Aye.
Sweat,
Aye.
Rojas,
I,
Kennedy.
Aye.
Okay, motion is approved with a vote of 6-0, 6 in the affirmative, 0 opposed. That's item K2. Item K3 is ordinance 23-15B. This is a non-code ordinance to the city of Seldovia, Alaska, appropriating funds. Appendix B, annual budget for fiscal year ending June 30th, 2024. And I don't have the page number.
53.
53. All right. That'll be found on page 53 of your packets. And Heidi, I'll let you take it away.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. So again, as previously discussed, this is the draft FY24 budget for council consideration, beginning page 53. You'll see that the overall appropriations for this budget are $1,618,484,000. It's a little bit less than last year's, a little bit more than the previous years before. So kind of staying in the middle line there. On page 60, I'd like to draw your attention to the manager's message that kind of gives an overall view of the whole budget with the fee changes as just discussed previously in the Seldovia fee schedule. It talks about that for overall, the budget for FY24 is a balanced budget except for the municipal dock. That dock primarily depends on the number of Alaska Marine Highway service stops that we have for Seldovia. And so we are waiting for the FY22 audit and looking forward at the FY24 schedule. That may really warrant a further discussion this year about what the future is for that dock, because it really does depend on those stops. Other than that, I wanted to note that the Small Boat Harbor Special Revenue Fund will, according to this budget, it does show that there will be a further decrease in the deficit. And with current trends, we're hoping that that'll be closed by FY 2026 and maybe sooner. Again, still waiting on those FY 22 audit numbers because I think it looks a little bit better than we budgeted. And that's been kind of a delayed process, but we're hoping that'll be buttoned up in the next couple of weeks. And that'll give us a better overall idea. But for the overall budget, our revenues are meeting our expenses. We're starting to make some headway on the deficits. The general fund pretty much matches last year's, but that's because we shifted some of the public safety funds around and then also took out the 40,000 for the public safety assistance grant and left the 85,000 in for salary. So it just, there's a little bit of it shows a little bit more of a allowance for spending than in previous years because of those shifts. So it leaves the deficit about the same, and certainly is on my list for mid-year budget adjustment already to have that discussion and see what that model is going to look like moving forward. But even it still makes a little bit of a headway, and those revenues are shown to meet the expenditures. Talk about that a little bit under personnel in this manager's message, as well as the conversations that we've had recently about having to increase or adjust some of the wages for current staff in order to help with retention. That we have seen where that has had a positive impact, including being able to hire a senior meals assistant this last week. So we're just trying to make sure that we are operating within the budget as well as being able to have staff to provide those services. But that's included in this budget, other than the senior meals, which we can talk about again during the mid-year budget adjustment, depending on what grant opportunities look like for that program itself. General increases in the budget were the health insurance of 3%, general liability insurance 10%. I'm still waiting to get that renewal back and was told it would happen by the end of June, but was also told to estimate 10% because we are under contract and that's as high as they can go. So that's something that will be on our list for next year to anticipate for FY25. We'll have to renegotiate that contract with AMLJIA. Cost of living adjustment was included for employees besides the ones that had a rate increase already of 4.3%. General fund revenues, we did not propose any changes to the property tax mill levy or city sales tax rate, which did have a 2% summer sales tax increase that was passed last year. And that makes it a little bit harder for budgeting this year just because we don't have a trend to see what that 2% is going to look like. So we just we used last year's numbers to carry forward through this year. And we will see over the next couple of years what that trend does. We are anticipating a 9% increase of the property tax based on preliminary figures provided by Kenai Peninsula Borough, and that is with 4%. We included a 4% potential loss from that from the overall increase. So it was overall like a 13% increase, and we projected 9%. And the state revenue sharing was not as high as we were hoping due to some different information we were receiving from different organizations, but that can still change. And we'll know more once the budget passes for the state. Like I said, removed public safety assistance. Charges for city rates and rents remain relatively the same. We discussed the rate changes for water and sewer in the Seldovia, fee schedule, as well as the credit card transaction. Other than that, the special revenue funds remain fairly steady. Doc, I know I just talked about a few minutes ago, and certainly I think we're going to spend some more time talking about it in the future. We did push the raw fish tax into dock from the general fund because of the crane usage there and the support that the dock provides for commercial fishing. Harbor, you can see on page 62, just as discussed before, the port fee is up to $2. A 4.3% CPI increase was implemented for moorage fees with the exception of the daily moorage fee, which was left unchanged. Boat haul out storage, relatively the same. And for our revenue reserve funds and capital projects, no anticipated changes for Seldovia Permanent Fund for their long-term goals, but there'll be a discussion on that at the end of the fiscal year. Major maintenance and repair fund was split out by funds for FY 22-23. It was put into the budget as an overall fund that didn't account for the different breakdowns by department. So those are in there now. Vehicle replacement is in there. And just really want to thank you guys for working through this with us the last couple of years. I know improving city finances has been a top priority for the Seldovia City Council and a large focus of discussion. The FY24 budget estimates the general fund deficit will remain relatively the same. However, staff anticipates a change to ending fund balances upon the completion of the FY22 audit, which may include a decrease in the deficit. Other future considerations for city finances may include dependence on the community assistance program, reserve funding for the Seldovia Police Department, further review of mill rate and personal property tax structures, the repayment of the harbor kiosk project, which was not included yet, but I have it on the list for mid-year budget adjustment. We're just waiting to see those ending fund balance numbers. Implementing a fund balance target policy across all funds and establishing a 10-year strategic plan across all departments. The rest of the budget follows in this document, and I'm happy to answer any questions. But I did want to make a note that I really do believe that the city of Seldovia is continuing to move forward in a positive financial direction, and I look forward to continuing to work with the city council, mayor, and staff moving forward. Thank you, guys.
Awesome. Thank you, Heidi. Appreciate the overview, comments regarding all of the accounts, just the general overview of where we're at. I would definitely agree. We're slowly headed on the right track. We knew it was going to be a long road to get out of the deficit and slowly get in the black. And most of our funds now are headed that direction. I think the council's done a good job on making some good, sound choices over the last few years to get things headed in the right direction. And we've also been fiscally responsible with the way we've incorporated the CPIs. It's all painful, right, to the residents. I think the sales tax was a good move in terms of taking a little bit of the heat off of the property owners. So it's all good. It's going to be slow, a slow dig out, but it looks like it's all pointed in the right direction. So appreciate everything you guys are doing on your end, as well as the rest of the council on the council's side. Appreciate that. Any other comments, questions for the manager on ordinance 23-15B?
I do have one question, Mr. Mayor.
Yep, go ahead.
I see that the dock slab repair is on there. Is there any kind of timeline on when that's going to take place? Do we know that?
Not yet at this time.
Thanks.
Mr. Mayor, if I may.
Yeah, go ahead, Vivian.
Yeah, I too would like to compliment the staff and the council. We've been working really, really hard to get our city moving into the black, and I'm really excited about that. I'm also very interested about when our city manager brings forward about kiosk repayment. I'm looking forward to hear that and have that discussion. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Yep, thank you, Vivian. Appreciate your comments. Anyone else in regards to ordinance 23-15?
I do have one more. Sorry.
Yep, no, you're good.
At
Go
the
ahead.
bottom of what page am I on here? 77, where you have the general fund budget laid out. What are on the parentheses on the bottom? What are those numbers?
Oh, I'm sorry. Those are not supposed to be there. Those are notes from
Okay.
previous discussions.
Thanks.
Good to know. We'll take those out.
Okay, any further comments before we go to the public? Okay, we'll go and move on to the public. If there's anyone in the public, either in chambers or online, that wishes to offer a comment on ordinance 23-15B.
Looks like we have no comments at this time.
Okay, sounds good. We'll go ahead and bring it back to council for final action on ordinance 23-15B.
I make a motion to accept ordinance 23-15B.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Sweat to approve ordinance 23-15B. I believe the second was by Keithley. Yep. So we do have a motion to approve ordinance 23-15B by Sweat, second by Keithley. Any further discussion before we vote? Okay, hearing none, we'll go ahead and vote on the approval of ordinance 23-15B. All those in favor, Swick,
Aye.
Peyton,
Aye.
Keithley,
Aye.
Sweat,
Aye.
Rojas,
Aye.
and Kennedy.
Aye.
Motion passes with a vote of 6-0. 6 in the affirmative, 0 in the opposition. All right. Well, that takes care of that. Thanks, everyone, for your discussion on that. That'll take us to item L, unfinished business. Have none tonight. Item M, new business, none. Item N, city manager's report. This will be found on page 11 of the laydown.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And the first note on the city manager's report is a request for funding or help with funding for the Seldovia fly-in. And it looks like the requestor, Stephanie Blanchard, was able to join us. If you want to give a moment for her to fill you in. Otherwise, I did include that email request behind the city manager's report.
Okay, yeah, if she's online, we can go ahead and have her chime in.
Hi, yeah, can everybody hear me?
Yep, got you loud and clear there.
Okay, great. Well, this is Steph, and this is going to be the 6th year of the Seldovia fly-in. And it's gotten bigger and bigger, and I do believe that it is a really great event for the town, and it's really spread the word about Seldovia within the pilot community, but really not just that. I mean, it's throughout the state of Alaska. And I think it benefits the town not only on the weekend when it happens, but also the rest of the year. And it just kind of puts Seldovia on the map as far as pilots go. And a lot of people in Alaska have private planes, and they just want somewhere to go. And we have a pretty perfect setup for people to show up even in the wintertime. And so I just wanted to see if the city would be willing to help with the funding. It's gotten so big that last year, we had to provide our own insurance. I was able to get it through the Alaska Airmen Association in the past, but they've kind of drifted away from doing that. So last year, basically, between the chamber and the Alaska Airmen and the Linwood, we funded insurance and permits, as well as the food, and by donations and hoodies and that kind of stuff, the prizes for the competitors. And so, pardon my dogs. So anyways, I just wanted to mention that I did go to the Valdez fly-in, which is a really big fly-in in Alaska, and it's been going on for almost 20 years. And they had mentioned that the city of Valdez acknowledges how important it is for the town, and they actually cover the whole insurance cost, which last year it was about $2,000, and then this year it actually went down to about $1,600 for some reason. And the permit also is about $500. So I was just going to see if the council and the city would be willing to help me cover those costs. And then the Linwood and the Alaska Airmen and the Chamber are also still donating, and we could focus more on prizes and just making the organization better, getting more volunteers and putting the funds towards other aspects of the fly-in event. So if anybody has any questions about it, I'm happy to answer them.
All right, thanks, Stephanie. Appreciate that update. Any questions or initial comments from council?
Mr. Mayor, if I may.
Yeah, go ahead, Vivian.
Yeah, Steffi, if you could clarify, I kind of lost what you said. So what you're looking for is help in funding which areas? The insurance, or what was it you're asking for the?
Well, yeah, initially, if the city could cover the insurance, that would be a huge help. And this year, it was about $1,600. So that would be what I'm requesting, and then that would allow us to basically put the rest of the funding towards more fun aspects of the event, like such as prizes and more food and safety and all the other things that are required to run the event.
Yeah. Have you asked the Art Council to contribute in any way?
I have not asked the Art Council. I'm not quite sure. I used to be part of the Art Council, and I'm not quite sure how this would relate to that organization in particular, since it's not really an art event or music or anything like that. It's more of a community event.
Yeah.
That
When I was on Art Council, we talked about the idea of maybe providing an educational component. I think it's fantastic, the way the pilots can explain things and have an educational component to it that public could be a part of. And when I was on council, or actually on the board for the Art Council, that's where our discussion was. I was just asking to see if you had addressed that.
Okay. Well, no, that's a valuable idea, and I certainly hadn't really thought about reaching out to them. But yes, I will. That's a great thought. So thank you for that.
You bet. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, you bet, Vivian. Stephanie, what about the chamber? Have they, does the chamber contribute at all to that, or have you checked in with them?
Yes, the chambers. So I'm part of the chamber, and the chamber has contributed. They started last year, and
Okay.
they did make a contribution again for this year.
Okay.
So, yep, they are a part
Okay.
of it. And also, I get a significant chunk too from the Alaska Airmen Association up in Anchorage. So those are really the main sponsors. And then, of course, the Linwood.
Gotcha. Okay. Okay. Heidi, is this something that we can get on the agenda for next meeting, or what? How do we do that?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. If there is support or somebody who wants to sponsor this request, then we can write it up as a resolution to have further discussion and action on it at the next meeting.
Yeah, why don't we go ahead and put that on the agenda, and I can sponsor that, and then that'll give us an opportunity between now and then to have a few more discussions and thoughts on that, and then see if we can't do something at that meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, any other questions for Stephanie while we got her?
Oh, I think my internet went down for a few seconds there. What was the last?
Oh, no, I was just asking if there was any other additional comments. We're going to go ahead and put it on the agenda for the next meeting, Stephanie. And then if we can take any action, we'll do it at that meeting.
Okay, sounds good. And then just as a final little comment is I am going to apply at this point for a permit that lasts. It's like more of a 5-year permit because I've been doing it year by year. But now that I'm kind of getting the hang of what DOT wants from me and all that, they said I was eligible to apply for a 5-year permit, which does save us a little bit of money. And it just means that, I mean, I would like this event to keep going on year after year just because it's people really look forward to it, and not just in Seldovia. I think everywhere in the state, people keep asking me about it. I just want to make sure it doesn't fizzle out like some of the other towns. You know, Talkeetna used to have a really good one, and that ended up not happening anymore. And then same with Wasilla, and it's just a lot of it is just lack of funding and then just lack of motivation. And so, if I know that the town likes this event and wants to support it, you know, that's a big motivator to get volunteers and to get people to join in and help. So just wanted to mention that.
Awesome. Yeah, no, thank you. No, there's definitely a benefit. I know when people come in, I mean, they're using all the, community services and goods, and it seems like everyone's enjoying themselves, having a good time. Lots of families come in. And so, yeah, I think it's just one more event that's definitely, helps throughout the town for sure. So, and I'm sure there's a ton of spinoff, when the pilots decide to bring, additional people down later dates and stay. And so, yeah, anything like this is always instrumental in, furthering our total tourist season, if you will.
Well, thank you. And I appreciate everybody taking the time to consider this and listening to the ideas. So thank you very much.
All right, thanks for taking the time. Appreciate it, Stephanie. Okay, Heidi, we'll let you roll on there.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is it's a fairly lengthy city manager's report. I didn't put everything in it, just the pertinent things to this this last couple of weeks or coming week. Mentioning again, bird cherry tree removal is happening tomorrow. That'll be the tree right out front of the library building, the 3 at Mermaid Park, and the ones down by the pavilion, not the ones in front of Lollipop Park. Those ones are okay. They're a different species of the prunus tree. So I have had discussion with Susie Stranick with the Chamber's Beautification Committee about potentially some replacement trees for some of the areas. And I'm going to work with them, because we don't want to take trees out and make it ugly. So what that process looks like, as well as I know we'll have to figure out a stump removal process once the treatment has taken place. So if anybody has any questions or concerns on that, please let me know. Otherwise, we are planning to move ahead with those individuals coming over tomorrow for that removal process. And they are available if there's anybody else in the community who's interested in having their trees treated as well and removed in the future. I had a nice meeting with AMHS focus group last week before. Time is flying by. They were discussing that the AMHS winter schedule will hopefully be released in July. The MV Testamina is scheduled for some pretty robust maintenance. So instead of the 6-week time, they're planning a 3 to 4 month time in dry docks. They're saying February through April right now, with the hopes that the MV Kennecott will be available beginning of spring. They said it's just not, that boat is not cut out to handle winter's weather and ends up having a lot of delays. And so they are not planning on having it come out until the spring. And of course, that depends on crew because she's not operating right now. No crew. So hopefully that gives them enough time to put that together and we won't have too large of a gap. I didn't include it in this memo, but that's something that we have been discussing with AMHS as supplemental service during that time where both boats are in dry dock. So we'll continue to have that discussion and see if we can have any headway this year on that. I'm also going to be reaching out to AMHS about any winter and summer events to be considered for Seldovia for scheduling. There's a submission link available on their Charting the Course website for individuals. So just in case anybody in the community is interested and wants to submit an event for consideration for ferry scheduling, definitely go to that website and you can submit your own list. I also requested during that meeting, that was pretty much the only thing I had to say towards the end of it, was that something that we've really noticed has been a down, has not been very pleasant the last couple of years, is that the ferry schedule is competing with weather typically right before she goes into dry dock. And we see a lot of services start getting canceled around that time, due to weather. It's hard to prevent that, but the last 2 years we've had to put out pleas saying, please don't cut our last service. Can you delay? And so I did voice that if they can always put that into consideration, that week before she goes to dry dock, if there's weather's delays, that they delay moving her on, and so that she can at least come for the last trip. So that seemed to be a pretty positive response, and one the other communities were definitely in support of. We've had a few leases on the recent agendas. Those have all been executed. Wellspring, Hurley House for Seldovia Space, All Nations Community Health for the Gateway Kiosk, AMHS MOA for the dock. That 5-year lease was signed. Planning Commission subcommittee we discussed at the last meeting. Clerk Diamond gave a quick update, and it does look like there is a provision. Doesn't look like there is a provision in the Planning Commission bylaws for forming a subcommittee. So we will be working through that process with the commission over the summer. And that's to discuss the commercial business district as a whole and allowed uses for that district, in particular nightly rentals, but just overall discussion of how to promote that district moving forward. KPB Planning Commission seats, this keeps coming up over and over again, and I don't know if you had a chance to read it because it was in the laydown. I don't know that it's going to go away this time, but the KPB Assembly has scheduled a public hearing date of June 6, 2023 for an ordinance to reduce the number of seats on the Planning Commission to consist of the same number of member seats as the Assembly member seats. So that's 9, I believe. To look at that number, 9 or 11. The ordinance would remove all the city seats from the commission, and apportionment would be consistent with the assembly member districts that we have now. So that ordinance is included along with a memo and a fiscal note. Memos, if council would like me to write a letter or put in a comment, please let me know, and I can make sure to submit that before the 6th. Susan Lake Access Project Community Challenge Grant was denied. We did not receive that grant, but we will keep looking for future opportunities for that project. CDS requests for the community grant application. This is the Block Street Sewer Replacement Project and raw water transmission line. I did reach out to the EDA Region 10 Community Grants team, and we are not able to request more funding for the projects. However, we can request funding for one project if we wanted to pick one over the other and combine them, or to complete the projects in phases depending on available funding. We're able to request a cost sharing waiver. So when we take that next step, we'll make sure to do that. I am in discussion with BSW right now about future projects for the city, and those two are included. We're kind of waiting to see what kind of funding, if any funding, we will receive. I'm sorry, I cannot speak. To see any funding that we may receive from VSW. Those notices come out July 7th, 2023. And then I think depending on that, we can have a bigger overall discussion of what we're prioritizing. Unless we don't receive any funding, and then we'll keep moving ahead, but just waiting for that date. Request swap of federal funds with DOT. We heard from DOT's office that our funds would dwindle down due to the requirements for federal funds. It was suggested that we reached out to Representative Vance's office to see if they could do a federal swap for state dollars. The state would receive the federal funds, and we would receive funds from the state in that amount for road material. We did receive a response back from DOT that we would not be able to do that due to the nature of the CDS funds request. But they are aware of our situation and are looking into options to maximize the use of these funds. So we will keep working with them moving forward and seeing how much of that $22,000 for dirt material will actually be able to utilize. Healthy and equitable communities. We applied for the senior meals grant. We received it. We applied for an additional $10,000 for senior meals. We haven't heard a response back. And then we received another email last week soliciting requests for funding. And this one had more to do with solid waste. And they recommended these following options on page 13 of the report here. And if you can see, one includes dump trucks or ATVs, bear-proof cans. It's right up our alley. PPE for staff. Definitely got a little excitement going in the audience, or in the office. So we are planning to submit a letter. At this point in time, it's just a one-page letter. You say what you want. If the project sounds good, then they'll work with you for funding moving forward. I know this is something that Councilmember Kennedy has had on his list, so we would be happy to work with him if they do select this project on purchasing a vehicle and what that would look like, as well as any of the rest of the council who would like to participate in that. We will see moving forward, but we are definitely submitting a letter for those requests. Community Cleanup Day, Wednesday. We've got our champion Councilmember Sweat's going to be present. So there's going to be some prizes. Spread the word in the community. We're going to have the yellow waste bags are available already at the Harbor Master's office. People can pick them up anytime now through Wednesday. Clean up your yards, tie up your bag, leave it on the curb on Wednesday. Don't leave it on the curb now, but Wednesday afternoon, any yellow bags left on the curb, refuse will come through and pick them up, as well as we'll we'll have some staff and hopefully community members out Wednesday afternoon from 12 to 3 picking up garbage, especially along Main Street. And then we have some prizes for dog poop collection as well, including cute little bags that everybody who participates can have little holders and bags to go through as a prize, just to help clean up our streets and make us ready for summer. I did want to point out that we do have dog poop receptacles in a few places in town, including Main Street Garden, not Main Street Garden, what's the one next to the, why did I just blank that? Central Park next to Crab Pot, Lollipop Park at the bottom of the harbor ramp. I think that's one that a lot of people aren't aware of, that it already exists, but it is there. And they are stocked with bags. So get the word out. If you need to clean up your dog waste, there's a few locations you can go. It's National Public Works Weeks. We're going to do a nice post and try to put something together to just really thank our gentlemen. We're on a crew and a half right now for people. So one full-time person, one half-time person who is hoping to go to a few less hours this summer, and still trying to complete all the projects in town. It's pretty amazing. We do have a position posted, and it was updated this last week to be flexible for either a part-time, full-time, or seasonal worker. Honestly, at this point, well, any point, you know, we're happy to work with an individual who would like to work for the city and either grow in that position or just be there for the summer. We're willing to be flexible in order to be able to see those services met. So if you see an operator out and about, definitely give them a big thank you. We also hired on Michelle DePriest as the new senior meals assistant cook. That seems to be working out well so far. She's been on for a week. And Allison Ryan as an AMHS line handler. She'll start next week. So welcome them both aboard. 2022 Consumer Confidence Report was complete and will go out in the next billing. As stated in the previous city manager's report, 0 violations, which is fairly significant for the city, and a huge, it couldn't have happened without Operator Cameron. It's a lot of work because that's the crux of it, is getting the coolers here, getting the samples taken and the samples out, and they have to meet several planes and a courier service. So it's a lot of coordinating, and it's a big achievement for Operator Cameron to have been able to have that happen for an entire year. So big thanks to him. They also fixed up an office car for the administrative assistant and any visiting affiliates and city business. That second patrol car that we had, you know, we had the police truck, and then we had a second patrol car that was the other expedition that was just waiting on the sidelines in case there was an emergency and there was an instance that we needed 2 patrol cars. It's been waiting for many, many years without any use. So Public Works took it upon themselves to revamp it, update it, give it an oil change, take the decals off. I think they were tired of us bumming rides from them for city business. So we now have one for office and just daily ride things that need to happen when people like Kevin visit, or the lady from the grant agency, or it seems like there's always somebody who is in need of a ride. Boardwalk repairs. I had a nice visit with Jerry Stranick and Operator Cameron about recent damage done to the boardwalk. I meant to put pictures in here. I apologize I didn't, but I do have pictures of it. There are a few places that were damaged during winter snow removal, and the crew is going to be on that hopefully in the next couple of weeks, trying to make those repairs. And then thanks to the council for FY24 budget, trying to move that plan forward of being able to contract out for snow removal. Hopefully that will decrease some of that damage done. Won't keep you too much with everything else. Just Kevin Schoeneman visited. Radzy's going to a water treatment plant or water treatment and distribution training in Juneau next week for his provisional certifications for WTP. Senator Stevens would like to provide a legislative update at the next city council meeting. So as long as everything works out, we can count on that. Potentially a work session will be scheduled prior to the next meeting as well for discussion on the 1984 grader. AML conference we've discussed. We're still working on the VPSO. emergency informational flyer. We did receive permitting for the 4th of July activities, so that's done. Almost done with the FY22 audit. Still waiting to hear back from a few grants that we applied for, Denali Commission, RAISE, and the PIDP, which I did not include on here. RFP for the storm water management plan and drainage map closes May 31st, and we've had quite a bit of interest on that, including we'll have some people coming over this week to do some tours. Jan will be taking them out, our finance officer, just to see the area so they can put a proposal in. Still moving ahead with Martin Media for small education material, and everything else. Still working on impoundment procedures, personnel policy, and you'll see the enclosures also include a KPB siren project update. Thank you.
Thank you. Lots of information. Any questions or comments for the city manager?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, I have a couple of questions.
Yep, go ahead.
I forgot to ask you when we had our meeting last week, what is the status and how is it going with the VPSO? Just a general, update.
Sure. As administratively, I think it's going really well. We've had a pretty consistent visitation from Officer Patterson almost daily, checking in, seeing how things are going. He seems to be pretty aware and well versed of some of the needs of the community, and pretty active and proactive on getting involved in those issues, including, I think he was hearing today about dogs. So summer's coming up, that'll come around again. Vehicles, just some of the regular things that we hear about every year. And he's been pretty responsive as far as I am aware. I think he seems to be doing really well.
Okay, good. And is he all settled into the office?
I believe so,
Pretty
yes.
much? Okay. And what's the status on the second VPSO? Do you know yet?
The last I heard, we were going to schedule interviews in the next couple of weeks, and I haven't heard more since then, but I'll double check with Michael.
Okay. And he's going to be coming here, right?
Yep.
And when was that again?
He was looking at the end of May, beginning of June, but he was trying to work around Officer Patterson's schedule with training with AST. He's been in frequent conversation with the Alaska State Troopers. They're trying to come over and spend more time here to help him out, and he'll go over and spend some time with them as well.
Okay. And I just wanted to remind you, I know I asked you about it a while ago, about the post on the chatterbox, to change that, because it's still the original post that we're in transition, for waiting for chief of police.
Oh,
Remember
is that on the Seldovia chatterbox?
yeah.
We don't post the Seldovia chatterbox, so I guess I would have to look into.
Well, it was
research
that post that, 911 post.
Oh, yes. Yep. That's on our list to update that informational flyer. That's something that Clerk Diamond has been working on. I
I think it's a good idea because people do look at it, and tourists look at it,
Mhm.
and at least it gives them a little bit of an idea of what's happening here with law enforcement.
Okay, thank you. Yeah,
I
we'll
think it's a
get
good
that. We'll
idea.
get that
Okay.
updated and out, and then people are welcome to share it to the chatterbox.
Okay, thanks.
Alrighty.
Okay, anyone else? Okay, sounds good. Let's see, that was item N. Item O, informational items not requiring action. O1, a community cleanup day is scheduled for May 24th from 12 to 3 p.m. And then item O2, the city offices will be closed Monday, May 29th in observance of Memorial Day. Item P, executive session, none. Item Q, council and mayor comments concerning items not on the agenda. Swick,
No comment.
Peyton?
Lots of good work, you guys. Really appreciate you, Heidi. Good job, Officer Cameron or Operator Cameron, for having stuff like that.
Okay, thank you. Keith Lee.
No comment.
Sweat?
Yeah, I just want to say thanks for all the budget updates and all the hard work you put into putting that all together. Thank you.
Thank you, Rojas.
Yes, just a big thank you to everyone for your hard work. And the informational narrative that was included with our budget is good. And I hope more people in the community actually go on our website and pull it up and read it over so they get a really good overview of how our city budget is working. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, thank you, Vivian. Kennedy.
I don't have anything additional.
Okay, yeah, and I'll just extend my thanks to the staff for all the work on the budget. Nice to get that passed and continue to move on with other business items for the city. So that's good. Let's see, our next meeting is going to be a regular meeting. Will be held on June 12th at 6 p.m. And I'll go ahead and look for a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion to adjourn and a second. Any objections? Hearing none, we are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Good night, everyone.
Okay, good night.